Welcome. r/Nuclearrevenge. Try to ruin my life. Have fun with your 30-year prison sentence, $100,000 fine, and record as a offender. Let me start off by saying, when this story happened, my parents educated me on don't trust strangers on the internet, but never talked about internet friends. They assumed I would stay a local and only talk to people I knew. They were very wrong in assuming so. This story includes loads of backstory, but I'll take some of the less important parts out to shorten it. Obviously none of these names are real. All of it is really important to the story, but I'm putting a TL, doctor at the end. Summer going into freshman year, I had just joined the girls' varsity swim team. I had a few friends from middle school on the team, but one of the girls I was closer to than the others. Let's call her Tiffany. Tiffany and I started hanging out more and more, and eventually I became a part of her circle. This was around the time that Kick was huge, and she added me to the group chat with a lot of her internet friends. It was at this point where I was introduced to the catfish, who we'll call Kevin. He lived in the next state over, and was a main participant in the group chat, very easy to like, because of his banter and his good attitude. Kevin was online dating a friend, who we'll call Angelica. She was a part of Tiffany's circle, and was in the group chat with us. As time went on, Kevin took an interest to me, and soon we became friends outside of the fateful group chat. We talked every day, at least 3+ hours on the phone, and eventually I introduced him to some of my other friends around my town. He ended up becoming friends with people in at least 7 different schools in my district, and most of my freshman class knew who he was. The most notable of all of my friends who I introduced to Kevin was Patricia. Patricia was a year younger than me, but was still one of my closest friends. And unfortunately she got dragged down almost as much as I did. Soon he broke up with Angelica. Patricia and I both fell in love with Kevin, being young and stupid, blindly ignoring the red flags, not showing his face on FaceTime, blatantly manipulative, a genuine sociopath and psychopath. The one red flag that bothered all of us was him refusing to show his face, because he was too ugly. Eventually, he started sending pictures of this gorgeous, and to this day still is, football player, 6'2", blonde hair, blue eye, the whole deal. Neither of us cared to even pay attention to how weird the situation was. He ended up turning us against each other, and lied to both of us anytime we asked about the other girl. All of my friends hated me, and I was left alone, only with Kevin in my life. I soon isolated myself, and became very suicidal. Kevin took advantage of my feelings for him by constantly telling me to kill myself, which I soon attempted and ended up in the psych ward for. He also manipulated me into sending nude pictures. Mind you, this all happened between October to April. After I was cleared to go home, I got my phone back, and decided I needed to repair the bridges that were burned. I texted Patricia, and asked how she was doing, trying to make amends. Immediately she texts back apologizing for being so distant, and then asks if I have talked to Kevin recently. I said yes, that we had been dating for months. She absolutely lost it. She FaceTimed me, and we talked for hours about everything Kevin had said to us to turn us against each other, how messed up everything was. I felt so angry, powerless and hurt by everything that had happened. I asked Patricia if I could confront Kevin with the information I had. She agreed. I texted Kevin saying some pretty nasty things, saying I never wanted to talk to him again, and if he talked to Patricia I would send people after him. Kevin retorted, saying if I told Patricia what I knew, he had no idea any of the info I had came from her. He would make a group chat full of at least 50 people from every school in my district, send my nudes into it, and tell everyone who I slept with. Kevin knew I was raped the beginning of the year, but wanted everyone to think I was a liar. He was the only person I told, and used it against me. I called him bluff, and told Patricia what he said. We both didn't believe he would do anything, so she confronted him. The next morning he did exactly what he said we was gonna do. My parents found out, and it was the absolute worst moment in my life. It doesn't stop there. In August a few of my friends found out he was a catfish, except in a different way. He used his real name. He was our age, but the blonde blue-eyed boy wasn't him. He was a fat white kid and absolute trailer trash. Absolutely horrified with how everything worked out. Everyone started moving on with their lives, but I couldn't. I was so angry I felt like I could make the devil himself cry. I wanted revenge, bad, but I had no idea how. I looked at the laws in both states and both were very lenient on the offender. I couldn't go to the police. I couldn't talk to my parents because I could never tell them the real story. All they knew was that I sent nude pictures to a boy and they got sent around. So I waited 3 years for my moment. Now throughout these 3 years we all kept tabs on Kevin, and we all drove away any potential girlfriend he would come into contact with. But there was this one girl, who we'll call Katie, who didn't believe anything we said. Kevin met Katie halfway through my sophomore year of high school. We laid out all the evidence for her, and she still refused to believe us. At that point we began harassing her, almost to the point of cyberbullying. Trust me, I'm not proud of this at all, but we had no clue what else to do to drive her away from him. She eventually blocked us, but several months later it happened. Katie texted all of us, saying we were right and how he was an absolute psychopath. She also said he raped her in her sleep, and when she woke up he strangled her until she was unconscious. The next day she woke up to multiple texts of him apologizing profusely for what he did, and sent pictures of him cutting himself. She had evidence of this, but was terrified to go to the police, because he also threatened her life if he ever told anyone. This fueled the fire, and now I formed a plan to destroy him. I told her I wanted to help her, but in no way pushed her to do what happened next. The revenge. I told my parents I was spending the night at Patricia's. We drove the 5.5-hour drive to his hometown, and met with Katie. I explained that, if she went to the police now, she would give other girls a chance to be saved. I guaranteed her protection and she finally agreed. We went to the local police station that night, and I helped her file a report. The police said they would bring him in for questioning and such, but there was no guarantee they would be able to press charges. Even with the photos and the texts, there was no DNA and no rape kit, because it was weeks later. After we left, Katie had another brilliant idea. She said a friend from school told her he was talking to a new girl who still had a boyfriend. This boyfriend had really bad anger issues and Katie said she had proof of his girlfriend cheating. So she sent me the proof, his number, and on one of those phone number apps I sent it to Kevin's lover's boyfriend. The text said Kevin's full name and address. Patricia and I left, and for 2 days it was silent. We later found out that the boyfriend grabbed a couple buddies, went to his house, beat him senseless, nothing major, just a lot of bruising, and a black eye, and destroyed his car. At the hospital, police questioned him, and he attempted to assault one of the officers for accusing him of something he didn't do. He was then arrested after the hospital cleared him. His family was too poor to bail him out, so while he was in jail the police had a warrant to search his phone and laptop to find any evidence they could of the sexual assault. Not only did they find the texts corroborating Katie's story, they found my nudes along with Patricia's, Angelica's and at least 10 other girls who were very underage. Since he was a legal adult at the time the pictures were found on his computer, he was also charged with possession of child pornography. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I sent in a written testimony, as did Patricia and Angelica. I also sent as much proof as I could to Katie's lawyer, to set a precedent on character. It was all entered in as evidence anonymously per my request. Kevin's family didn't have enough money for a lawyer, so the public defender was his only option. He tried to plead consent, which didn't work. After the trial was over, I got a text from Katie thanking me because Kevin was found guilty and had been sentenced to 30 years in prison without chance of parole on one count of sexual assault in the first degree, which is considered a felony in his state, possession child pornography in the third degree, felony, and assault of an officer, class D felony. He will never be able to have a job, family of his own, or live in his hometown again without being treated like garbage. His mother, who who herself is an absolute lunatic, has lost all of her friends, and is now homeless and carless. She lost everything due to the amount of money she had to pay to the court in his name, which was around $100,000. It was supposed to be paid out in small payments at a time, but again, his family is very poor and couldn't afford the trailer they lived in anymore. His mother also played a huge role in everything, pushing him to assault Katie, because women are sluts and men deserve sex if they're offering. I don't feel bad for his mother. Looking back now, almost a year later, everything seems so surreal. I'm not ashamed of anything except harassing Katie, because she's a good friend with a really good heart. She's coping slowly but surely. I make time to call her every day and check on her, and she's now going to a big university for teaching. Kevin to this day has no idea it was me who set everything up. I might visit him in federal prison one day, just to see the look on his face, and tell him it was me who absolutely destroyed his life. But for now, I'm satisfied just knowing he's rotting in there. TL, Dr. Guy from another state catfished me, raped his girlfriend, and sent my nudes around. I convinced his girlfriend to press charges, in which he assaulted an officer. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for rape, child pornography and assaulting an officer, with an $100,000 fine. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.